It began in silence, the absolute stillness that comes when light itself forgets how to speak, where darkness itself is a beautiful symphony. The battle for Moonrise Towers was meant to be a reckoning, the last breath of a twilight age. At 1-4, harpers, cloaked in songs of freedom and old oaths. Beside them, resolute and unyielding, like that of the oldest oak, druids of the Emerald Enclave, the keepers of root and storm, standing against the rising dark. They gathered beneath the ancient tower of Moonrise, like sparks defying a drowning sea. They would halt the coming blight, General Ketheric Thorm and his dark justiciars. But Thorm, his flesh bore the pallor of one who had stood too long in the whispering dark. His eyes reflected stars, no longer part of this realm, and behind him came his dark justiciars, sworn to silence. Their voices were gone, replaced by prayers that bled upward into void. A parley was offered, a final plea from the harpers, born on hope. Of song and silver tongues, the druids offered truce in the name of balance. But Thorm met them beneath the sundered archway of Moonrise's western tower, said nothing, and let a single obsidian feather fall from his sleeve. With it, he turned away. That night, in the broken chapel at the heart of Moonrise Towers, beneath a shattered dome where light dared not tread, he knelt. He called with the harsh cries of grief. Incense of blood and salt filled the air. Candles were snuffed as soon as lit. A chorus of silent justiciars formed a circle, their breath misting though no wind stirred. The Lady of Loss uncoiled her presence like a velvet wound. Reality thinned, shadows deepened into meaning, and from her mercy, a gift emerged. It, like all shadow, was always present, but never truly seen. The velvet cloak of shadow, worn around the great worm, or what remained of one, stirred from beneath the floor of the world. Its emergence was heralded by whispers too old for language, and frost too ancient for time. It merely was everywhere the light did not touch. Its wings, veils of starless night. Its breath, a shadow, a mist of forgetting, a tide of nullity and necrosis. The ritual was complete. Thorm stood. His shadow moved beyond his own. From the edge of the battlefield came the Moonrise Devourer. It crossed into the world like a dream half remembered and wholly feared. Where it passed, no wind stirred. The stars dimmed. Torches bowed into darkness. Its scales shimmered with void stuff, and its eyes were two wells from which light could not return. The harpers sang. Their song unraveled. The druids summoned the storm. The storm fell silent. Its breath, oblivion, memory, grief, swept the defenders. Sigils failed like forgotten prayers. Oak turned to shadow. Stone wept darkness. A druid, cloaked in branches, dared to channel the voice of the grove. He became an extension of shadow. A harper invoked Mistra's light. The spell rebounded into silence, his mouth stolen. The dragon was a shroud. The towers a tomb. Its exhalation upon the advancing forces of light covered in breath of shadow. Their pain and memory but a remnant of what once was. The earth whispered, quieter still. The harpers faltered. The druids broke. The towers fell. Ketheric Thorm simply walked beneath its shadow, untouched. And from the ruins he raised his banner and then descended deep into the surface of the ground. For shadow will always follow where light touches. Not all dragons that fall are permitted the dignity of death. Some are taken. The shadow dragon is the echo of a fall too deep for memory, a consequence whispered into the marrow of scale and soul. What once soared in glory is now shackled in gloom, by proximity to despair made in the visualization of grief and darkness. They begin as dragons of chromatic or metallic lineage, creatures of legend in their own right. But there are places in the world, ancient and hidden, where the veil between the living realm and the Shadowfell thins like old paper. Beneath forgotten barrows, in the hollow bellies of long-dead mountains, behind waterfalls that weep dusk instead of water, the veil breathes. And sometimes it opens, portals beckon. Drawn by curiosity, greed, or the scent of power, dragons enter. And within that twilight realm of unlived memory and stifled light, the slow undoing begins. For in the Shadowfell, even time limps, joy forgets its name, and the dragon, no matter how mighty, begins to fade. Some entities are dragged by curses, by planar storms, by the hands of mortals who play at godhood. Others perish in the mortal world, but die beneath the watchful gaze of deities who speak only in silence, patrons of endings, of secrets buried in shadow. In that moment, when scale cracks and soul stutters, the metamorphosis begins. Light extinguished and devoured, their colours leach into grey, then into void. What was pride becomes hunger. What was flight becomes pursuit. What was joy becomes the need to see others weep. And yet they live, of a sort. They forget warmth. They forget the sun's caress. They forget how it felt to roar in celebration. But they remember hunger. They remember the moment they were remade. Some are chosen, twisted into instruments of divine shadow, given purpose by the whim of a goddess who smiles only in the dark. Others are victims, wrong place, wrong time, wrong death. But all who emerge are changed. They persist. They are darkness in motion, echoes with teeth. They are not corpses, yet they rot. They are not spirits, yet they pass through stone. They are not dragons, not anymore. They are contradictions. They are living absences. And the longer they exist, the more the world forgets they were ever anything else. Some are born beneath the shroud. Others are sculpted by it. But whether by origin or slow unraveling, shadow dragons are hollowed a vile reflection of the dragon's past existence. True dragons, mighty and eternal, are not immune to the long, aching pull of the Shadowfell. For some, it is a trap stumbled into by ancient arrogance, a portal blooming in the dark heart of a forgotten lair. For others, it is a deliberate communion, a longing for silence, power, or peace, twisted into a pact with despair. In either case, the dragon does not emerge the same. The transformation is not swift. It is a slow burial. First, the luster leaves their scales, drained away. From emerald, sapphire, gold, and crimson, they fade, through ash and charcoal, to a matte black that reflects nothing. Their wings, once proud banners of wind and flame, become veils of living shadow, shifting like oil across water. Their eyes recede, pale orbs of opalescent grey, or voids through which the world forgets itself. In sunlight, they weaken. The brilliance scalds them like lies on the tongue of truth. In darkness they bloom, fading from sight, from sound, from sense. They become suggestion, silhouette, sin. Blows that would previously harm now are enveloped in darkness and shadow, proving but a lost hope to harm the draconic shadow. Only the might of radiant blows, psychic might, or pure unrelenting force may harm the shadow in this state. From afar, they are formless. A gathering gloom, mistaken for weather or omen. Up close, they are indistinguishable from the fear they instill. The Shadowfell seeps into their marrow with resignation. Dragons who lair too long in its hush find their will ebbing, their purpose shifting. They begin to understand the bleak wisdom of the plane, that all colour is a lie, all joy a mask, and all memory dust waiting to be scattered. Even those who claw their way back to the material plane cannot undo what has been done. Some, still possessed of cunning, return to mortal realms. A brief break from the Shadowfell, time to spread sorrow to the mortal world. They lure mortals with dreams and riddles, draw them back into the gloom, cruelty and loneliness seeping into the manifests of the mortal's mind. For even darkness aches to be known, until it devours. When a shadow dragon exhales, a colliginous gout pours forth thick as midnight and colder than memory. Those who fall within its shroud do not rest. Their spirits, unmoored and half-remembered, rise again as husks of shadow, bound in silence to the dragon's will. The mighty weep blood. The meek forget themselves. The very world recoils. Voices die. Hope fails. Metal tarnishes at their passage. Birds fall silent. Mirrors fog. Illusions drift like ash. Curses root like rot. Wherever they fly, the veil of night grows heavier. In darkness, they are not seen. Planning and creating terror for their opponents. Whole armies looking for the dragon, while the very thought of, could it appear here, weighs heavy on their minds. This confusion allows the dragon to strike as all true dragons do, with claw, tail, and breath weapon. A shadow dragon seeks no throne. It seeks the ruin of all who would sit upon one. It stalks the brave to twist their very mental fortitude, to hollow out the righteous, to poison courage, to whisper treachery into the bones of heroes. And yet, beneath the layers of cold silence, echoes sometimes stir. A name. A cave where laughter once rang. A story half remembered from when the sky was blue and the sun was not a wound. When the moon is full and they pause their long circling paths, their eyes drift skyward. And for a moment, brief as a dying candle, something mourns. Light flickers over the tavern's old table. Small crumbs left from the mouth of the man who bore a moustache and a beard he kept neatly trimmed. He habitually wore a floppy velvet beret that was considered stylish. Sitting across from him, 4 adventurers sat, as if waiting for his first words, like the first drops of snow on a winter's morning. From Volo's Guide to Monsters, 2nd edition, Chapter 17, in which your humble narrator dines in darkness, faces a Duergar king, and lives to tell the tale of Shimmergloom, the Shadowed Death, by Volothamp Gedarm. Ah, dear reader, permit me to paint the scene with all the flourish you've come to expect from your tireless, and may I say, indispensable, chronicler of monstrous marvels. I was waist-deep in shadow, lanterns sputtering, quill clutched in trembling fingers, when I first laid eyes upon what I dare say was the very essence of darkness given wings. Harinvarim, better known to dwarves, Duergar, and dread-struck scholars alike as Shimmergloom. Yes, yes, I hear you now. Volo, surely you exaggerate. But nay, gentle reader, exaggeration would be claiming I courted a shadow dragon, which I most certainly did not, though there were negotiations for a tour of his lair. Quickly rescinded when he noticed the glint of mithril in my cufflinks. Let us begin, as all grand tales must, in the long-lost days before the Dragonfall War, in a city of silk and shadows called Cholsin, a drow metropolis nestled like a black jewel within the Underdark. It was there that the Jaezrid clan of shadow dragons, twilight-wreathed tyrants who'd bathed themselves in the raw essence of the plane of shadow, conquered, enslaved, and ruled. Among them soared Harinvarim, the youngest yet most cunning of his ilk. But oh, the delicious irony of dragonkind. For it was not steel or spell that undid the Jaezrid clan. It was their own blood. Their half-dragon, half-drow progeny turned against them in 634 DR, slaying their creators in a rebellion worthy of bardic ballads and tragic stage plays. Only Harinvarim survived, slinking into the deepest crevices of the Underdark, embittered and exiled. Centuries passed, the realms forgot. In the dusky years of the 1100s DR, while I was but a sprightly lad, thrilling over tales of lost elven kingdoms and flirtatious dryads, Shimmergloom emerged once more. From the abyssal depths, he soared into the great, echoing halls of Mithril Hall, ancestral home of Clan Battlehammer. There, amidst the still glittering veins of Mithril and the fading echoes of dwarven song, he struck. Picture it. Glittering beards turning pale in the dark, hammers clattering to stone, proud dwarves swept aside by living shadow. His breath, cold as forgotten tombs, stole even the fire from their forges. The surviving dwarves fled, shame bitter upon their tongues, and made for the icy wastes of Icewind Dale, their hearts heavy, their oaths unfulfilled. And Shimmergloom? He did not feast like his chromatic cousins, nor build pyramids of bone like some gauche Dracolicious. No, he ruled in silence, his voice rarely heard, save in whispers among his new servants. The Duergar, grey dwarves, with eyes like coals and hearts like anvils. But dear reader, no shadow is eternal. In the year 1356, DR, Destiny, gruff, bearded, and wielding an axe, returned to Mithril Hall. Bruenor Battlehammer, rightful heir, hero of many a tale, and, I might add, a dwarven drinking partner of notable stamina, led a fellowship into the hall's haunted depths. Shimmergloom unleashed his most trusted beasts, shadow mastiffs whose howls could silence courage itself, but one by one they fell. At last, dragon met dwarf. Here, I must pause, for the scene is almost too vivid even for my pen. Fire-licking stone, the air thick with smoke and fury. Shimmergloom's wings spread wide like the cloaks of 10,000 nightblades. Bruenor, brave madman that he is, strapped a barrel of flaming oil to his back and leapt onto the dragon's spine. Boom! The cavern shook. Shadow peeled away like parchment in a pyre. Shimmergloom's shriek was the sound of empires ending, of centuries vanishing in flame. And yet, miracle of miracles, Bruenor survived. Carried in that maelstrom of fire and fury by the magic of icing death, the enchanted scimitar wielded by his dark elven companion, Dritz do Erden, which shielded him from the blaze even as Shimmergloom crumbled into a heap of ash and memory. Thus fell the last son of the Jaezred clan, not in battle against dragonslayers or rival worms, but brought low by dwarven vengeance, fire, and a blade of icy fate. Now, my critics. Elminster among them, that archmagely curmudgeon with his ever-flapping robes and constant complaints of my flights of fancy, might scoff and say I embellish. To which I respond, of course I do. For truth alone is but the skeleton. I give it flesh. What is a guide without a tale? A map without wonder? So beware, gentle reader, should you ever descend into ruins where the air is too still and the shadows too deep. For Shimmergloom may be dead, but the plane of shadow is ever hungry. And who knows what claw or wing may slip into our world when the light grows thin. Volothamp Gedarm, scholar, storyteller, survivor. Wherever memory rots and light flees the corners of the world, there do they linger. Some are born of shadow, clawed forth from the void womb of the Shadowfell itself, their first breath drawn not in air, but in sorrow. Their lairs reflect this rebirth, not chosen, but accreted like rot. The Shadowfell draws them back, again and again, for that plane whispers in their blood. It is hunger. Here, in the veiled lands where day never dawns, and hope is a myth recited by the mad, they carve their dominions. They nest in the negative hollows of the fell, crumbling palaces where the walls bleed shadows, caverns that echo with the memory of screams never voiced, ruins that have outlasted even the gods that cursed them. And yet the material realm is not safe. Some shadow dragons, too wretched or restless for the cold comfort of the fell, descend into the Underdark, a place already close to night eternal. There, In realms of luminescent fungi and unweeping stone, they thrive. Portals to the Shadowfell leak their essence like blood from a wound, and dragons long since twisted by shadow make their homes in places where the world grows thin. Some lair beneath swamps thick with miasma, in deserts where stars go to die, or in volcanoes whose fire flickers only in memory. Wherever they roost, the world grows worse. Light dims, mirrors tarnish, reflections begin to disobey. Fire guttering without reason, laughter turning to weeping mid-breath. Even the air forgets how to carry warmth. The longer the dragon remains, the more the land forgets what it was. Even the horde, the dragon's instinctive claim upon legacy, becomes a thing of sorrow. Shadow dragons still collect. Their treasures are drawn from lost cities, fallen champions, temples swallowed by grief. They gather the skulls of prophets who died unheard, coins from empires whose names have been stricken from stone, chalices that once bore holy wine, now curdled into ink. Gold disgusts them, diamonds scream in their presence. Such things must be buried, scarred, dimmed, for they remind the dragon of warmth, of want, of what was. The most radiant objects are hidden in secret places, sealed behind stone carved with forgetfulness. And those secret places are many. A shadow dragon's lair is shattered, scattered across its domain like shards of a broken mirror. One may find a vault of relics buried beneath an unmarked grave, or a trove suspended in the petrified ribcage of a sky whale drowned in shadow. Some caches are cursed, protected by dreams that do not end, or whispers that unravel sanity. To steal from a shadow dragon is an invitation, a name spoken in the dark, and the shadow always answers, not with fire, not with fury, but with silence and shadow, to torment the thief and bring the dark reflection of the mortal world upon the soul of the mortal. To face a shadow dragon in battle is to duel a ghost with claw and tooth. The dragon vanishes, and then they are upon you. A shadow dragon's warfare is an art of subtraction. They reduce courage. They disintegrate coordination. They prey on doubt, magnify despair, and twist unity into chaos. They prefer ambushes from darkness, from above, from within. They slither through chasms of shadow, their forms indistinguishable from the void. Their illusions splinter perception. Their breath turns living ranks into screaming phantoms, rising the recent dead to turn the despair further on the minds of the opponent. Honor, light, hope. It is these the dragon seeks to extinguish. They delight in breaking paladins, in silencing song, in turning the trusted against their own. They will corrupt a cleric's prayer into a shriek. They will mock a wizard's spell with a shadowed echo. They are master tacticians in terrain they twist with every breath. A battle fought in the dragon's chosen domain, a lightless cavern, a moonless ruin, or the bleak corridors of the Shadowfell. And when they are finally wounded, if such a thing is possible, they retreat to wait. For time is always on the side of darkness. When the light returned, if it ever did, Moonrise Towers stood cloaked in a dusk that no dawn dispelled. The harpers who survived told tales of dreams turned to ash. The druids whispered of animals that would no longer cross the land. The trees shrunk, their elements of life dissolved. The earth grew cold. Ketheric Thorm's dominion was held in place by memory undone. The Moonrise Devourer had vanished. Its essence had seeped into stone, into root, into the breath of the land itself. Each tower bore a shadow that never shifted. Each hall whispered names no longer known. The fog obeyed only grief. Moonrise became a place of forgetting, of half-remembered loss. Children born in its shadow dream of things they've never seen. The dead do not rest, the living do not thrive. And in the darkest hour of the night, Some claim to hear the breath of wings that were not seen, heard, or felt. It is said the dragon's soul dissolved into the land, not defeated, but dispersed. Its final breath, rich with Shah's blessing, sank into the foundation stones of the towers and curdled time itself. What once stood as a bulwark of hope is now a monument to memory's undoing. To this day, the Shadow Dragon's name is unknown, but the wound it left behind still bleeds silence. The towers may crumble, the banners may burn, but the dark will always remember. And grief follows hope.